Well, hey, welcome to you. This is the Vital Moments podcast. My name is David. I'm on the team here at Vitalpoint Church, and today we are capturing a beautiful story of life, faith, and how God moves in people's lives. We have a passion at VPC to really follow God, and what we're seeing lately within Vitalpoint and all of our locations in Southwestern Ontario is many people dig into what it means to explore and grow in faith. And today I'm joined by Jane and Matt Miklovic, and they are dear friends to me, and I'm excited to talk to them about life and faith and what is going on in their lives, because over the last almost 6 years now, we've been doing life with one another, and I've got to know you guys in a beautiful way. Your lives are inspiring. You've got an incredible business. You got young boys. You have seen God move in many ways in your life. And today we wanted to sit down with you and talk to you about the reality of what life and faith and all of these things are, even in the struggle of life and faith. So yeah, welcome to you guys on the podcast. How you doing this morning?
Pretty good.
Pretty good, Matt?
Good, right?
I love this. Before we started recording, we've got one that could talk a lot,
Yeah.
and we got
She could.
one that could stay very quiet. So we got a happy medium, hopefully, here for the conversation. Like I said, it's really exciting to be part of this convo with you guys. And
Yeah.
I think a beautiful place to sit and start in this conversation is your faith journey. We're not going to start in the beginning of when life happened, but actually when true life happened, when you both encountered Christ. Because, like I said quickly, like we've been doing church and life together for a little bit, and I've heard your story of how you've encountered Christ, and I was inspired, and I believe so many more will be inspired. So, Jane, like, when did Jesus become real for you? When did it really come alive and you really committed to him?
When I was 16, our whole family moved from England to Canada. And in 79, which is long before you were born.
Just a couple of years.
And one by one, we all became Christians in a very short time, my parents and my brother and I. And it was through, actually, we were dragged to a full gospel businessman's breakfast.
A men's breakfast.
Yeah, say that 10 times. Yeah, so we were invited there by my dad. And at the end, it's that drawing that is like nothing else. Like when they said, does anyone want to step forward and become a Christian? My brother, as I recall, like leaned over and said, if you go, I'll go. And honestly, I don't know if there's anything that could have stopped me, because it's that real strong pull. And I was crying already and thinking, why am I crying? And I cried most of the day afterwards. Driving home in the car, I was still crying.
Wow.
But yeah, it was I know that's not for everybody. That's not how, but for me, that's when I first became a Christian. Got into a good church and knew some people from school. Went to a big high school, big church. So got really involved in the youth group, and it was just an awesome, like, special time in my life, getting to know Jesus in that environment where everybody seemed so keen also to know Jesus and grow with Jesus. And we had like 50, 60 kids in our youth group. And so it was just a lot of fun and a lot of learning. And yeah.
So from like 16 years on, it's been really a life of like really seeking Christ.
Yeah.
In everything that you do. That's so powerful. I love hearing that, like a youth group like that is like 50, 60 kids.
And I still have close friends from that youth group.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So moved from Canada, invited to a men's breakfast. Your whole family got to go.
My mom and dad were believers then. And so I think they were just wanting, Jason and I to follow in that that step.
Yeah, and because the Bible, it says quite a bit, like as parents, like to raise your kids in the faith so that they wouldn't walk away from it, right?
Yeah.
And so they can know the wisdom and the truth of the Lord.
It was new and exciting for our whole family at the same time, because it was just within a few months.
That's incredible.
So it was kind of fun going through it with them too, because I saw such a change in them and a joy. And
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's awesome. How about you, Matt? Like, when did Jesus come real for you?
Oh, well, a little different than her story.
Let's be real. I love it.
Well, okay, I would have been about 32 years old, and I was an alcoholic at that time, and I was drinking really bad. And everything was going wrong for me. And I had two women working for me, and they were Chris Caldwell's
Yeah.
sister-in-law and mother-in-law.
Wow.
And anyway, they got talking to Chris, and they said, "Oh, you should see my boss. He's pretty bad shape and everything." And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, she showed up, and then she said, "Well, hey, you want to go to church?" And I thought, what are you talking about? Go to church?
What's that going to do for me?
No, yeah, what's that going to do for me? But before that, I tried AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, and other things, and it didn't work. So then I started going to church, and then I didn't have a license then. I lost my driver's license for a while. So they would come pick me up and then all of a sudden, all these people I didn't even know.
Yeah.
They're bringing me to church and giving me rides and coming over and all this stuff. And
Harry Stewart was one of those
Harry
people.
was one.
Harry
It was all the
Stewart,
old EPT gang, Leroy and Wilma Hoffman.
Yeah.
And
They're now at VPC Exeter as well. Yeah.
And Harold Trebner. And it was, anyway, so that all started. And then I was going to church, and I was going to church for quite a while. And I thought, and then.
Like before you made the commitment to follow Jesus, you were just going to church.
Yeah, I was going. I didn't really know I was, I didn't know, I was going, but, and then we went one night to this, it was at the church, it was Heaven's Gates and Hell's Flames, one of them presentations. And I was sitting there watching this, and then it dawned upon me. I thought, you know what, I'm not saved. I'm not saved. So then I went up and got saved, and that's when I was saved at that time. So that's how that happened. And then ever since then, I just stuck at it and kept going, and that was it.
I think what I love about both your stories is one's from like a young age of parents having a desire for you to understand who the Lord is, what Jesus has done for you. Your dad takes a gamble and you're like, I'm going to bring my family to a men's breakfast, right? You don't hear that often.
No.
That the family gets to come to the men's breakfast, and then you have this total enlightened moment of your eyes being open to who Christ is. You're weeping and weeping about who he is in your life. And you've sought him ever since, which is amazing. And for you, Matt, like what you said, 32 or 34?
I was about 32, I think.
32,
Yeah,
like
32.
the power of an invite, right? Invited by some people that worked for you and worked with you and saw that you were a flaming mess.
Yeah,
But they cared about you, right?
Yeah.
And then you start going to church, checking it out, and then at an event being like, whoa, like this is my reality. Like I'm not saved. I haven't confessed that I am a sinner. And here you are now, years upon years later, you have made that decision, and the Lord has really led you into a beautiful life of life and faith with him, which is amazing.
Yeah.
So.
See, the real part about it was like, okay, I quit drinking off and on before that, but it always bothered me. And same with smoking.
Yeah.
Like I smoked too. But then when I got saved, then all of a sudden it didn't bother me if other people drank. And the smoking, well, it took a while to do the smoking, but well, when I met Jane,
When he
I
met
quit.
me, he quit.
And then,
We're going to get to that story in a second. I love it.
Then when I quit smoking, because I quit smoking before too a few times, but it kept bothering me. And then after all that, it didn't bother me after I was saved. Like it does, I can go to the bar with my friends if they want to go to the bar. I can go to the bar, and it don't bother me one bit.
So let me ask you this: when it comes to the addiction thing of like smoking and drinking and other substance abusing, like do you believe that Jesus heals people of that, or that you can be in a room with people? Because I've got some friends that can be in a room with people that they don't drink anymore, but their friends do, and they don't feel an urge or a temptation or anything. That's what you're saying? Is for yourself?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's
Freedom.
Well, it's a totally spiritual battle with the addiction, because you can't just take a pill and say, here's a pill, you're done with it. You're cured. You can't really put your finger on it, what causes it, from what I learned.
That's cool.
Because I used to go to AA meetings and stuff, and it works for some people, but the people there, most of the people, they get up and they tell a story, and it was all, I did this, I did that, and then now I don't drink, and it's been 3 years, 4 months, 2 days, and 2 hours. Like they just keep counting it down. And for me, I don't care. It's done with a long time ago. I don't even know.
It's not part of your life anymore.
No,
I've been
it's
set
done.
free.
It's done. And then when they tell their story, most of them, they would say, I'm glad I don't drink, but tomorrow I might fall into it again.
Oh, wow.
It just takes one drink and I'm done. And it's true. That's the truth about that.
Wow.
So me, it's, it's gone. It's over. Poof, done.
Been set
That's
free.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a difference.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that. That's the power of who Jesus is, right?
Yeah.
He can truly set us
for
free
sure.
from those bondages.
For
that
sure.
we have.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Now, for the two of you, like, you met each other later on.
Yeah, I didn't know Matt
Yeah.
as that person. He
Yeah.
was about
So-
5 years.
Janet hooked us up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good old
Not the
Gene.
VPC
Yeah.
person.
Yeah, the VPC people back in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's the story of how you guys came? Because you're
We've both been married before.
Yeah. So what's the story behind that?
So I was married at 21 to somebody at church. And we went to church together for my 20s. But it was not what people thought it was behind scenes. And at the end, I found out that he was gay. And that explained an awful lot of what had gone or not gone on during our marriage. And I don't know why it took me that long to figure that out. But anyway, that was brutal for me because I didn't get married with the intent or even the thought that it would ever not work out.
Yeah.
And so that was tough. It was tough because some people didn't understand why I left when I left, and I wasn't sharing everything. So, but Janet from PPC, all these little connect the dots.
Yeah.
I was part of a church plant at the time, and Janet and her ex-husband were pastoring there. And then she left the weekend that it all hit the fan in our household when I found everything out. And she was my rock when I went through that. I'd go and stay at her house in Paris, and we had long conversations. And it's just amazing to me how God puts people into your lives. Like when you look back, it's just like one big dot-to-dot puzzle. And, and then you see later on how you were there for her, and then she knew somebody else who was brought in because they had been through this. Or it's just, it really is crazy, the dot-to-dot. Linda always says, like, it's the connect the dots, and it's so true. Mm-hmm. And then in the end, it was Janet who ended up introducing Matt and I on July 1st on his boat. And that's the day I met Chris. Oh, I met a lot of people that day that became dear friends of mine.
That's incredible.
Because they were all on the boat, and they say, we were there the day you two met.
It was firecracker days when we went out in the lake and watched the fireworks out in the lake. So
celebrating Canada.
Yeah. So that was July, and then we got engaged in October and married in February. And I said I was never getting married again.
Oh,
it was so bad. I would much prefer to be single.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, because you come out of a really heartbreaking moment. Like you said, like you got married, never thought like, no, we're going to make this work, right?
But I had two caveats. And Matt knew, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. He knew that I was not going to marry him unless I saw, and I know this is going to sound crazy, but I didn't trust my feelings anymore.
Yeah.
So I had to have it written on the wall, or somebody who didn't know me had to tell me I was going to get married.
Wow.
So it was a big ask, and I had a date in mind that day. It was an evening service at the church that Matt was going to. And they had a guest speaker, and he was praying for people who have foot problems, and I happened to have a foot problem. So I went up there, and I was the last one in line. There was maybe 8 of us, which I remember at the time thinking, wow, this many people have foot problems. But anyway, so I'm at the end, and he just prayed quietly for everybody's feet or whatever. And then he gets to me, and so, you bow your head and you're waiting, and he's not saying anything. So then I look at him, and he goes, are you married? And I said, no. And he goes, you're going to be married soon. So I went back to my seat, and sure enough, Thursday he comes and asks me.
He didn't pray for your feet at all?
I can't remember. I ended up having surgery on my feet. So
no, he didn't.
Matt, no, he didn't at all.
I think the pastor probably thought, this is really strange, and questioning, should I say this? Should I not say this? But it was the last day I had in my mind, and I was walking away because
she was going to dump me.
was going to dump him. Yeah.
So you guys were dating.
We were dating,
This was
and
the
he
last
wanted to
moment.
move on, and I needed to hear from God. And so, and I had a spot in my kitchen wall where he could have written it. I came down every day, wasn't on the wall. Okay.
Wow.
And then somebody said that.
So out of that, then, like, you're like, this must have been the Lord. Like,
Yeah.
you were like all in on that.
Oh yeah, I was all in. I just needed God to give me the okay.
Okay.
So, and I wasn't moving if he didn't, because
Wow.
been there, done that.
Yeah. Which is totally valid, right? It's
Yeah.
and then,
And I'm not saying that means that marriage is easy, because it's been tough. But I know God always meant for this to be. And that kind of gets you through the rough patches too.
that's incredible.
Yeah.
So that was a pivotal moment with you guys in a relationship,
Yeah.
right? And then obviously getting to know you, wanting the Lord to be at the center of it all as well, right? Yeah, you're getting married. You take marriage on with each other. And if you're trying to go in changing the other person, it's never going to work,
Yeah.
right? The Lord only does the changing.
Yeah.
And he has a plan for all of us in our lives, and
Yeah.
a plan for marriage. So maybe what is some other pivotal moments for you guys in your faith journey together that has helped you understand who the Lord is?
I would say that because of the experiences we've gone through, we are like magnets for people who
Yeah.
are struggling with the same thing. And I know that's kind of how it goes, but we have several friends who have just shown up at the doorstep and just said,
Because what you mean by
They-
magnets is like
they
a
know.
lot of people come into your circle that maybe have had experiences like yourselves.
yeah, or going through it.
Exactly.
And then they need somebody else to understand what they're going through. And it's like with anything. If you've been through it, you have a wisdom, you have
Yeah.
experience to share. You just know how that other person's feeling at certain points. And I think they know that you know, so there's no explanation necessary. And yeah, we've really found that.
Yeah.
Yeah, sadly.
It is kind of
Yeah.
funny. It's like it's a sad thing that
Yeah.
people have to go through these things.
Yeah,
But like you've mentioned for yourself before in your first marriage, like you had the right people around you.
yeah,
They became your rock, right? They
Yeah.
led you to Christ. Like
yeah,
Galatians chapter 6 says, like, carry one another's burdens. But Paul's not talking to the church saying, like, hey, Jane, I'm going to carry your burdens to fix you. I'm going to carry you to the foot of the cross. I'm going to allow you to experience the Lord
Yeah.
yourself in community. And I think that's what's beautiful
Yeah.
about your guys' marriage is now you've been able to
yeah.
carry other people's burdens, be like, we're in this.
Even in like my first marriage, I didn't share any of what I was going through for 8 years with a soul, not a single soul. So when I would be out in public, I'd have a smile on my face and everything would be good. And so nobody had a sweet clue. And now I would not do that again.
Yeah.
And I'm surrounded by people who feed into my life when I need to be redirected, or like it's so important
Yeah.
to have people in your life that will do that for you, show up for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so blessed that way.
I think that's why I love the Bible when it talks about love one another. There's all these little phrases of one another
Yeah.
in the New Testament, right?
Yeah.
And it's really proclaiming the power of community,
Yeah.
of being there for one another, praying for one another, confessing to one another, repenting with one another. And you guys have in
People.
your marriage, yeah,
We have people.
you do.
Yeah.
You have an army of people.
We
with
do
you
have an
guys.
army.
And we'll get to that conversation a little bit later on
Yeah.
today of the power of having community and an army around you when it comes to a struggle in life that you're facing right now and in sickness. But I had the joy of my wife and I moving to a small town near you guys. And you guys were pivotal and key members of helping plant our Exeter site. It's almost 6 years ago,
Yeah.
which is
Crazy, eh?
wild to think. It feels like it's been the longest 6 years, but the quickest 6 years ever. Can you kind of share your heart a little bit on what it means to be part of a community of people like a church that lives on mission, that wants to reach people from your personal perspective, right? Because a church can have a great vision, right? Like Ron, my dad, the lead pastor of Vitalpoint, says a vision's great to have on a wall,
Mm-hmm.
but if you don't have stories to back it,
Mm-hmm.
it's not a vision.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not living on mission if you don't have stories.
Mm-hmm.
So for you guys thinking about even can go farther back, right? Because you've been
Mm-hmm.
part of some really great churches
Yeah.
that lived on mission, right?
Yeah.
What was the pull to be part of something like this in small towns, planting a church like Exeter?
Well, it's just like I don't know. It's like just the people that are coming there now.
Mm-hmm.
From you see other churches like with and most of them, or a lot of the churches, they just have like old people in them,
Mm-hmm.
and
Like us.
there's no
We're
no
old
young
now.
people.
You said it, not me. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
There's no young people, and like Vitalpoint, like to be a part of it and to see all these young people coming.
Yeah.
It's you think, wow, like we're like we've been in Exeter for a long time, and we've seen the church crowd, and all of a sudden it's all these new people coming from we don't even know them, and we think that's weird because we don't know them, because
I like to know everyone.
Yeah, you do.
because
Jay.
we usually kind of know everybody,
Yeah.
right? So
We had not been going to church actually, probably for almost 2 years
Yeah.
before, which is the only time in my life I've ever not gone to church. But we just, and there was absolutely nothing wrong with the church. We just didn't feel at home. It wasn't our home. And Linda kept telling us to come to London. And I said, I don't
Shout
want
out
to
to
go
Linda
to
Steckley.
church. Yeah,
Linda
shout out
Steckley,
to Linda
she
Steckley.
is a recruiter.
Yeah,
yeah.
she's on mission.
Yeah.
And I said, we don't want to go to church in London. We want to go to church in our community.
Because it would have been like 40 something minutes for you guys, right?
No, it would have been an hour
least
for
an
sure.
hour.
It's half
Oh,
an hour
true.
for us
Yes,
to
yes.
get to Exeter right
Yeah,
now.
so an hour into
it was
London.
an
Why
hour.
would we do that?
Yeah. And no chance we get the kids to sit in the car with us for an hour each way.
Yeah.
Anyway, but then we got wind that you were coming to Exeter.
Yes.
And then we're like, starting to get excited. I'd say I have a church planter's heart. I've planted, well, Janet's was one of them. Her church in London was a little church plant. Coincidentally, also the church where Pastor Tony pastored
Yes.
before coming to Vitalpoint, I think.
Yes. Tony.
And
who's
so
now
there's all
Forrest,
these other
yeah.
dots, like that's where Janet also pastored before, and that's where we met Janet. And so, where was I going with that?
You just had a church planter's heart, right? So now coming
yeah.
to Exeter.
Came to Exeter, and then I don't know, it was just exciting from the get-go for me. I knew from another situation that we had with another church that God always wanted something like this in our area, and it was just struggling in different areas for somebody to get it off the ground, I think.
Yeah.
And so Vitalpoint came in, and then COVID hit, but we managed to keep pivoting, and now we're just a mobile church, and we go wherever you tell us to go on Sunday.
Yeah. I was just listening to a podcast the other day out for a run, and one of the pastors on the podcast, he was talking about how COVID really threw a wrench into people's desire to plant churches or start something new within ministry. And he said the ones that have survived are the ones that truly created community.
Yeah.
And I was like out for the run. I'm like crying while I'm running
Yeah.
because I was just so like filled with joy of people like yourselves.
Yeah.
People like the Linda Steckleys, people like XYZ. We could name a whole list of people in Exeter, in the surrounding region, right? Because what's amazing about Exeter is it's reaching Exeter, the town.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people around that are coming from other little towns, right? So I was just filled with joy around the community and the power of community and how that creates a resilient group of people.
Yeah. And when you talk to people as well, I am just as excited today about Vitalpoint as I was when it started. Like, there was no honeymoon phase that kind of went.
I remember talking to you about this at one of our core team meetings. You're like, so how are we going to know when we're like excited, or how does it ever not stop being exciting? I said, if we just keep living on mission and vision and reaching people, we'll never lose the joy.
No. And honestly, every single week when I would be serving on greeting or whatever, you just can't wait to see who's coming in the door.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, it's an excitement that I would say in my life, I've had that when I became a Christian, that community I had then. And I'd say I really haven't had it until now again. I've had friends and whatever, but nothing that I feel so much a part of.
So let me push on this a little bit, okay? Because often when we feel the Lord leading us and then we step into it, there's some areas where he stretches us. Like thinking of that church plant being part of a team, a core team of 15 to 18 people, then getting a launch team that was like almost 50 people, then going into COVID, launching the sucker and then going into COVID and then coming out of it. For you guys, like what was stretching for you guys in your giftings, your talents, your marriage, or something that along the lines of like stepping into something that God wants, but it's tough?
Honestly, I'm not sure I've really felt that way about anything that we've done. I think it was stretching me a little bit when you asked me to be weekend leader. I felt like I'm too scattered and I get distracted easily, and it's probably not the best job for me, but I loved it.
Yeah.
And I tried to stay focused on the Sunday mornings best I could.
You do a great job.
But when you asked me, I thought, that's probably a bit more than I would be good at doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about yourself?
Well, like, I don't know, I'm on setup, right? So,
But thinking like, look, let me ask this question better, like for the both of you. Something stretching of like, hey, we're a church that says invite your friends, right?
Okay, when we first started, I had a hard time just blatantly asking people to church. And the more that you put it over as it's so easy, it really is.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, the gas guy was over. I asked him to come to church. It's like, why not?
He's delivering fuel or natural gas guy.
Natural gas guy.
natural gas guy.
That's hilarious. And you're
Our
inviting
fuel gas guy comes to
He already
Vitalpoint, so I
comes.
didn't need to
Oh,
ask
that's
him.
true. He already goes to Vitalpoint. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so funny. But yeah, thinking of that, Matt, for you, like what was stretching behind the scenes of like, man, yeah, you're on setting up a church sometimes really does suck, but it's a great sacrifice to
Yeah.
create a
Well,
place
no,
for people.
it's okay. It's just, we get it done and everything. It's fine. But, like my world, like my boat people, they, that's the last place they're going to go is the church. If you ask them, hey, they just, hey, it's not for me. It's, it'll catch on fire if I walk in the door, that's all that stuff, eh?
Yeah.
So, but, it's just tough that way. They all knew what I was like before, and then they see what I'm like now, and it's, they wonder, but I don't know if they're scared to change or what. I don't know what it is. Yeah, that's the part I don't understand.
Yeah. And I think that's what's amazing about how the Lord works in all of us is we're all stretched in different ways because he's created us all differently. Yeah, we're all image bearers of him, and he desires us to choose him and walk with him. And then when we have a movement like a VPC or another church that's doing things that are amazing, we're called into these things because like the reality is we've talked about this before, like I can't do everything, Ron can't do everything, Josh behind the scenes of this production, they can't do everything, right? It takes a church.
Yeah.
Right. So to say yes to being like, yeah, sure, maybe I wouldn't be good at being weekend leader because I'm kind of scattered, but you stepped into the moment and I love watching you serve, right? For Matt, for you, like with the E-team guys, like you take charge, like you lead those men, right? A lot of them are young guys, so looking for older men like yourself, right? We're all being stretched in some way. And maybe you're not feeling stretched as much as because your faith and your trust in the Lord of who he's created you to be is truly there. You're anchoring yourselves in who he is. So it's stretching, but it's a joyful stretching, right? And that's what maybe I'm learning from you guys right now is a younger follower of Jesus that wants to be resilient like the two of you. And can you remember a time where you saw God move really powerfully within VPC lately?
I love how, for instance, there's somebody in our congregation who can't get up easily out of a chair. And then when she comes in, everybody makes sure she has a chair she can get out of.
Yeah.
And I didn't know her name. I know her name now, but I was sitting next to her when she had to get up out of a chair. And the guy behind, I don't know who it was, put his hand on the chair so it wouldn't tip forward. And then I just put my arm out so she has an arm to get up. And that's how I'm not saying it's how I operate. I'm saying how this is how our church operates. They look for the one that is sitting alone, or like I know for a while, if somebody's spouse passed, then we're making sure that she's not sitting alone, and just the real little things. But they mean so much to the person who's can't get up out of the chair easily and doesn't want to be embarrassed because it's kicking the chair around and all of that. That's what I see in the willing hearts of people to serve, and they're little things, but they're big things.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, they're maybe not
and the
on
growth,
display.
like the people that just keep constantly coming, and I love that. From my perspective, anyways, it's a real encouraging group, not a didn't like how that was done this week, or it. I feel, unless I'm just surrounding myself with the right people, but I love that we're all cheering everybody on.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And I think that's what, and not I think, I believe that's happening in all of our sites,
Yeah.
right? And that's what the
and I mean, look at Baptism Sunday, my favorite day of the year.
yeah, VBC Family Day.
I know, and like the joy that everybody just,
Yeah.
like you couldn't keep me away from one of those Sundays.
Yeah. Last year, I think we had just over 700
Yeah.
people on the lawn here in Poplar
Yeah.
Hill, and
Yeah,
over
I just
30
couldn't get
baptisms.
close enough to the people to see them all baptized, but
yeah,
it's a cool day, and you see everybody coming together. I love that we're like one church, multiple sites. I love that because the other church plants I've been in are geared to separating, and I love that we can still function as one,
yeah, it's powerful.
which probably isn't easy your end, but
It's not easy, but it's worth it.
when we hosted Clinton for Easter,
Yeah.
it felt like we were really hosting friends, and it was just nice to see them come in.
Yeah.
Yeah, went there for Easter. I guess we went there for Easter, and then they came to us for the power outage.
Yeah, power outage in Clinton
on a Sunday.
Absolutely. Anything
Yeah.
for you, Matt, that you've noticed lately of God doing something miraculous?
Well, it's just all the young people.
Yeah, you love the young people.
Well, it is.
You
It's
do.
just so different. It's
Yeah.
just totally different. You know that, and then like, with my healing, it's supposed to be like a drug healing, the drugs, but it was really quick. So I'm thinking it was God, not the the drugs, or maybe a little of both. I don't know. Anyway,
Yeah. Well, let's get into that conversation.
yeah,
Because how many months has it been since? Well, you were battling cancer for
2020, I found out,
yes,
and then
It was lymphoma.
lymphoma,
Yeah.
and that's when we found out.
So why don't you give us the backstory from 2020 of what's been happening behind the scenes for you guys as a family with regarding the health issues?
Okay. Well, 2020, I had night sweats real bad in bed. So I went to the doctor, and she checked me all out and then said I have lymphoma. And so then I got hooked up with a cancer doctor in London. And every 3 months at
And
first, and then 6 months you go in for a checkup, and and it kept getting worse. But it went on for 4 years.
Yeah.
4 years till it got to the point where last fall, where I was feeling really bad all the time. And so then I went in for a CT, and then in my abdomen, all my lymph nodes in there were
Like 15
like
centimeter
just,
mass.
like they were just
big.
all blobbed
15
together.
centimeters,
Like they were
yeah.
all hooked together. They were so big, like they were just balls of them. And so then my cancer doctor said, well, I think it's time we better start treating. So then we started that, and that was at Christmas time. And then we got into that, and then everything was going well.
Yeah.
And then just when, like I said, we thought we were out of the woods, and she was diagnosed with hers. And hers is a wicked one, apparently. So
But you went into full remission after 14 weeks.
Yes.
yeah, that's right.
So
Yeah.
Treatment.
with no sign of
Yeah.
cancer in his blood or his lymph nodes, which he's treated for a year, but the very first scan that they scan him, and it
was way down.
gone.
Yeah. So that's what I'm going with, the miracle thing. That's what I'm going to go with.
Yeah, and I would go with that too.
Go with that too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like I'm in full belief that the Lord has created us to be creative, to create medicine.
Yeah.
That
That's
heals
right.
people.
Yeah.
That's right.
Because He's God, He's created everything.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think with the speedy recovery and actually seeing the cancer disappear, like this in your life, that is true. That's a healing from Christ. I would believe that. You've had hundreds and hundreds of people praying for you.
Well, of course.
Right? To see that speedy recovery is like, this has to be the Lord. Yeah, medicine can help, but the Lord brought it all into fruition, which is amazing. But the flip side of this is while you're battling, while you're being treated, on your side, some things were happening behind the scenes. You want to help us understand?
Yeah, just since the fall, I'd had just a dull ache in my belly, nothing major. So I went to the doctor after a few weeks, and she did lab work, and it was normal. Then went back again because it wasn't going away. She did an ultrasound, which was normal. And then in February, she did a CT.
Yeah.
And then I saw the scan before I'd seen a doctor, because you can get your records now, which is a blessing and a curse. I found out he had lymphoma 5 days before he did, but he didn't want to know, so I kept that to myself for 5 days until he heard it from the doctor. And then for me, I got it at Goderich Hospital, and when I was leaving from getting the scan, Emerge was empty, which never happens. So I thought, I'm going to pop in and see if they can just give me a result, because by then it was waking me up at night, and I figured it was my gallbladder probably. But anyway, while I was waiting, they put me in a room, and I had my phone, and I pulled up the report, and it said I had pancreatic cancer. And so I called him. He was like probably an hour and a half away. I didn't want to tell him on the phone. He wasn't even expecting me to go to Emerge. I just happened to be there. And so I had to speak to the doctor alone about it. And then it just sent things into urgent gastro referral and a biopsy and more scans the next day. And it went very quick. I'm thankful for that. It was just that was all done within a week, the extra studies in that. And then it's a brutal cancer. So I saw a surgeon, and he said he couldn't do surgery, that it was borderline resectable. And then, so then I went to oncology, and when I had the biopsy done, it triggered, I'm drawing all the short straws. So 1 in 700 chance of me getting pancreatitis from the biopsy, and I got it and ended up in hospital. It's a 1 in 5 respond to the chemo, because it's brutal chemo. And I got that too. So I went back in the hospital in Exeter and was just throwing up, and I couldn't get it under control. One of the doctors there, convinced me to do one more round. And then, because it's not a cure, there really isn't a cure for this. So I didn't want to spend my life in that capacity. So I stopped chemo, and I was really good with that decision. And then I had I went to a naturopath who specializes in cancer. And he said he wanted me to get a second opinion because I don't look like I have pancreatic cancer. I look too well. I haven't lost weight. I'm not typical. So the biopsy is definitive that it's pancreatic cancer. And it's also wrapping my nerves, which makes it really painful. So about 10 days, the naturopath said he wouldn't treat me until I got a second opinion. So I had that with Princess Margaret Hospital last week. And I just had a nerve block done to try and take away some of the pain, but also it kicked off another round of pancreatitis. So it's been painful the last week or so. And anyway, he said the scan came back that my tumor has not grown in 6 weeks, which is highly unusual for pancreatic cancer. And also that it was necrotizing. So I Googled, of course. Anyway.
You're the queen of Google.
Yeah.
Google.
And then I just don't let on. ChatGPT is my best friend right now.
I love it.
Anyway, So I got it said necrotizing. So I Googled that, and then I asked this doctor, what does necrotizing mean exactly? And he said, the tissue in the cancer mass is necrotizing and dying. So he said, it's probably a delayed reaction to the chemo that you had 6 weeks ago, even though while I was having chemo, it doubled in size. And my cancer marker, which is a blood test they do that measures how aggressive your cancer is. So since the beginning, it's just gone up, up, up. Well, I asked to have it done again before I saw this second opinion so we'd know where we were at. And I thought it would be like high.
Yeah.
And because it'd been going up by hundreds, like every couple of weeks, and it had dropped 100 in 6 weeks. So, which is also not normal. So it's a bit of a roller coaster. And I don't like always getting on the roller coaster. Because it's just a bit of hope. And I just don't want to be crashed down again. So I tried to control my thoughts, and obviously with the help of God. And I've got a crazy wall where I've written scriptures all over my wall, and I've stuck things on it. And it's just a roller coaster. And I don't love being on the roller coaster. But I'm so thankful that it's not worse, because in my mind, they had told me I just had months back in February if I did nothing. So that's a lot to take in at the time. I wrapped my head around that, and then you're given a bit of hope, and then you don't know quite what to do with it. And I do believe God has a hand in it, because it's very aggressive, and it stopped growing, and it started dying apparently. So I'm really, really hoping that it keeps going. But it's that tentativeness that you don't want to just totally let go and go, it's God. It's got to be God. But God, like, has spoken to me through the Bible. Like, I'm in my Bible like I've never been in my Bible. And it's like they're just like screaming off the page, you know. Like on this wall, we started because we had to get a desk calendar for the wall, didn't we? Because we had so many. 1 week we were at the cancer clinic every day between the two of us. I had to get my PICC line put in with a friend because he's down getting treatment downstairs. And so we had this big cancer clinic, and then people were texting me scriptures and stuff, and I just started printing them off and sticking them all around my calendar.
I saw this wall at the beginning of this journey. I can't imagine. I've been to your place in a while, but I can't
imagine. And then I got the Sharpie markers out.
Yes, you started writing on it.
Matt comes in one day, and he goes, "Oh, we're writing on the walls?" And I go, "Yeah, we're writing." So, anytime somebody sends me a scripture that really jumps out, it's on my wall a lot. And some days people have sent me the same scriptures. And it's been amazing. And I have my report on the wall. And then I just didn't like it being on the wall because it felt like it didn't deserve a spot with all the scriptures and everything. So I actually ripped it out and I stuck it in my Bible. And I actually have, I'm not sure, but I got names on here of who I'm inviting when I'm healed. And
the church.
The church. Yeah, they're coming to church. So you might have two services that week.
Hey.
So anyways, I just opened it and I wanted to bury it in my Bible because I'm not going to believe. I'm not crazy. I don't know if God will heal me. I absolutely know he heals people. He's healed friends of mine. I know that. I know he can. I don't know why he doesn't always. But I'm trusting him that all his plans are good. And so that whatever happens, I'm okay with that. But I thought, I'm not having it on the wall. I'm going to bury it in my Bible. And then I thought, what did I open it to?
Right?
Because, there are those times when you just want something to jump right out. And it was Psalm 30, and it says, I can't even hardly see what verse it is. It's right near the beginning. It's too small.
We'll find it for you, don't worry.
It says, "Oh, Lord, my God, I called to you for help, and you healed me." So I've written February 2nd, 25 in there. Wow. And that whole the Psalms, have been jumping out to me like crazy. Like I get up in the night, and it's all about sheltering me and upholding me and healing me. And so I'm reading those over and over again. And one night I got up, and my dad had typed up Psalm 91.
Yes.
And gave it to me and just really felt the Lord had laid it on his heart. And then we had family visiting that weekend, and I took it off the wall actually, and I reread it because my dad had, I think, interpreted it.
Yeah.
And then I thought, I'm going to read it in the Bible in different versions and see what different versions of the Bible say about 91. So I was reading it, and then I went back to bed. And then the next morning, it was a Sunday morning, and Jacqueline from church had texted me and said that she'd been fasting and praying for me for 72 hours. And it just is so humbling that people take the time to do that.
To do that for you, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, she said, I don't know if this means anything to you, Jane, but 91 just keeps coming to me. And she said, I Googled it, as you do. And she said, Psalm 91 keeps coming up. And so I said to her, like, that was my Psalm last night. And the very last lines in Psalm 91.
Surprised you don't have it tattooed yet.
I'm getting a tattoo.
Come on.
Yeah, I'm getting one.
Let's go together.
I'm just waiting to see what verse I'm putting on it, but this is right up there right now.
I love that.
Psalm 91. It starts off with, he who dwells in the shadow of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty. He is my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust. And then at the end, it says, with long life I will satisfy him and show him my salvation. So I'm just holding on to that.
Powerful.
And my people.
Yeah, your army.
My army of people. I have an army. I started a Facebook group, Faith and Fight, just because I was getting so many texts and whatever. And I love my people. And I thought I could use that to give like regular updates, big updates. Please pray I'm going in for another round of chemo. I don't do well. Please pray I don't vomit. Like things like that.
Practical stuff.
Practical stuff. Like it's not fun. And they have been so encouraging to me, like so encouraging. And two of them actually met. They didn't know each other, but they recognized each other from my group.
Yeah.
And the ones, as I hear it goes down, is, you're in Jane's army.
Yeah.
Like, then they were so excited to meet someone else in my army who they didn't know. And the food that people are bringing and the gift cards and the texts. I'm thinking of you. I'm praying for you. Like, honestly, just when you need it, with no expectation that I need to have them over for a visit or I need to reach back out. They're just unbelievable. Yeah.
As you're explaining this, something that comes to mind for me, like thinking of you, Matt, is on your wedding day, the vows are so powerful, right? In sickness and in health, richer for poor. Like for you, Matt, like you've said it very clearly today, like, hey, I've experienced a healing, but my wife hasn't experienced a full healing yet. Like, how is your heart and your mind doing with the faith of all of this? Because I know Jane just broken it down. Like, so much is happening, right? The Lord is speaking to her. But you guys are called to be one together, right? So hearing Jane's heart and her mind talk about these things, pray about these things, write on the wall and permanent marker. Like, how are you doing through it?
Well, it's been a roller coaster too, but I've been trying to stay positive about the whole thing, and like even with mine, when I had mine, I just thought, well, I'll get through it somehow, and and same with Jane, and now like it's hopefully going away. But at first it was pretty tough. You didn't know what to think, and then you think, well, everybody's saying, like the doctors, oh, this is it, and you're going to be done, and it's more or less what they were saying, and so it was hard to handle that, and then we, but we figured, well, we're both saved, and at the end, what, when we go to heaven, so that's your other. Like of all the down times, that's what you think of. Okay, first comes to worst, I'm going to heaven, or she's going to heaven, and that's it. So, but that's, but I think, I'm pretty sure that it's gonna go away. That's what I'm hoping.
Well, it's amazing to hear that. Like I'm on the Facebook page, right? It's like for me, just watching and praying for you and seeing the things that people post on there, I'm encouraged. I'm like, holy smokes, the faith and the resiliency of people is growing by the masses, right? They're believing in a total healing. And they're even saying, if the Lord heals, that he heals. If he doesn't, she has the eternal healing of salvation no matter what.
I don't have any fear around that at all.
Well, you've texted me.
Yeah.
Like, I have no fear around death.
No, and I'm hooked up with the palliative care team, and so they have to ask some really hard questions too, and fill in some forms like, what funeral home do I want? Well, do I want to go to Jessica's house? And then they turn around and see my wall, and I have to explain I'm really not crazy. I'm, what do I call myself? A hopeful realist. So I recognize that God might not heal me, and I have to make plans. But I'm also holding on to that God can heal me if he wants to heal me and if it's in his plan. And then, of course, I give him all the reasons why it would be a good plan,
Let's see.
There was this moment that I got to come to the hospital with you. I think it was your first or second time in the Exeter hospital, and it was one of those nauseous times.
It's lovely having visitors when you're puking.
Thankfully, you didn't puke when I was there. I can deal with puke a little bit, but not a lot.
Yeah.
But you, Matt, the boys were there. I came into that room, and as a pastor, I get called to go to the hospital every once in a while. Some really sad moments that I've had to walk into, and the room is just chaotic. The nurses are chaotic. The doctors are chaotic. I got into your room, and there was total peace. And then I asked you, how are you doing in your heart? Because I hate the question, hey, how are you doing? I want to know how your heart is, right? That's why I text you, like, hey, how's your heart today? And you said something beautiful to me about a hurricane and peace.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
One of my people in my army said, you've got to battle and battle through it. And I said, I just don't feel like I'm the one that's battling. I feel like the army is battling, and I'm just sitting in this, like, the eye of the storm, and it's just quiet. And I think my people are battling for me. And someone sent a picture of the paralyzed person being lowered in.
Jesus, yeah.
And that's what it feels like. It feels like people are just holding me up and supporting me, and I just need to rest in it. Now, I'm going to tell you that I don't do that every day.
Like you said, you're a realist.
I'm a realist, and I do get I get more days than I'd like when I'm losing it. But I try and reel myself back in again, and scriptures help with that. Just looking at my wall and start reading them, and who God says I am, and it's what God says is more important than anything else that I see in reports or whatever, because nothing can take away my eternity with him. And I'm going to be with my friends forever in eternity. I know that. I crave missing out on some things that I were with my boys more than anything.
Yeah.
But God is bigger than that too. I keep saying he loves them more than I could love them, and we've raised them to be independent young men, which they both are, and we're so proud of them. And I just don't. It's hard for me to watch them as I'm going through this. Like, it's hard even for me to look at friends, because I know how I'd feel if it was reversed. So it's I feel like it's harder and more to keep my emotions under control. But I just have to keep going back to God and reeling it back in again.
So for you guys, and Matt, chime in as well with this, is through this roller coaster that you've described, and you said very clearly scripture is something right now that is really helping you. What are some ways that you are, because the reality is all of us are going through something,
Yeah.
right? It may be sickness, it might be financial,
Yeah.
it might be whatever, right? You fill in the blank of someone's story.
I can't imagine somebody going through something like this without God.
Well, we've been hit pretty hard too,
Yeah.
with other things like at last was September, October.
Yeah,
That's when
the
we had to
same
put my
time.
uncle in the home because his
Yes.
health
Yeah.
deteriorated. And then my mom, she's got Alzheimer's really bad,
Yeah.
and she's losing it. And her husband, he can hardly walk, and it's just a lot of these. Everything's kind of happening, at once here, But we just keep, we try to stay positive, like I said, and just,
And do it one day at a time.
one day at a time.
Because
Yeah.
when you first got diagnosed, you're like, okay, months. How many months do I have? Like I've got to pack a bunch of stuff in there. I'm type A. Like, what do I've got bucket list things I want to do. I'm not sure if that's quite enough time. Yeah. And then you just have to reel it in and have, when you're having a good day, make the most of it. And which I got chastised by the oncologist at the hospital. I was being too positive and I didn't understand the severity of the disease. But I've come to realize that it's God that's carrying me through those days, and that's, I'm not going to dwell on, I felt crappy yesterday. Today I feel good. So today I'm going to meet a friend for coffee or that
Well,
kind
she's
of thing.
pretty tough, like pretty well every day. Mostly every day you've had enough and, you're tired.
I'm pretty much done by 1, 2
It's
o'clock.
taken a
and then-
lot out of her.
Yeah, I'm tired,
From what I see.
which is hard for me because I'm like a go-getter.
You're a
but-
go-getter, right? When I met you, you were bombing around
Yeah.
everywhere, doing everything,
Yeah,
anything you
so
could.
that's been a big change. Yeah.
So what would the two of you say to someone or a family or anyone that's going through something that is maybe feeling like this pull or the heartbeat kind of beating a little bit faster with connecting with your story? How would you encourage them? How would you tell them to keep leaning into Christ and what he wants for them? What are some things that you just would share?
Well, like, don't give up. Don't just give up, and keep your eyes on God. Because what else do you have, really? If it wasn't for God, what would like right now? Well, we probably wouldn't be here. But let's say there was no God or nobody believed in God. What would this look like right now? You got no hope. You got nothing. So.
And in our infinite minds, we fight to stay here on earth when heaven is a way better place to be. But I'm worried about all my people if I go early.
That's the worry. Like, we're not worried about going.
No.
It's what's going to happen to the, what about the boys? What about this? What about that? This is what you think about, and it's not really, well, it is important and it's not important, but that's what you're thinking a lot of times. And the what ifs, you don't know what's going to happen. And that's probably the worst part of it.
And I find, like, with my mental health, I guess you'd call it, is if I am having a day when I lose it, and some days I've lost it for the whole day and I just can't reel it in. But then scriptures just bring you back and into that protection mode where I'm covered by his wings. I'm in his refuge. I'm in his shelter. And I would just say, go to your Bible and surround yourself with people who lift you up in prayer. Because when people say, what can we do for you? What can you do for me? At this point in my life, prayer is such a gift to me. People praying for me is such a gift to me. It calms me. Even if I'm not healed, it's supporting me as I'm going through this journey. Yeah. So you need to surround yourself with people who will do that for you and cook for you.
Yeah. I think what you're describing for me and like for others is the reality of the armor of God in Ephesians chapter 6. The Lord calls us, and Paul writes to the church that we must place the whole armor of God on. And what's powerful about an army is they work as a team,
Yeah.
right? There's different, I'm not an army person, but there's different platoons, there's different
Yeah.
sections of an army, right? But we're all called to wear the same thing in the armor of God.
Yeah.
And what is coming to me as we're talking is you are experiencing people, one, lifting you up in prayer, but they're also using the shield of faith to distinguish all of the fiery arrows from the enemy.
Yeah.
Right? Often what happens when we go through tragic moments or moments that feel unhinged in life is the statistics are real that people lose their faith, right? It's really where they put the rubber to the road. Do you actually believe the songs that you sing in church if you're a follower of Jesus? And what we're discussing today is the both of you are not just saying these songs, you're believing them and you're living by them. And you are truly experiencing the Lord as your anchor to your faith.
Yeah.
Right?
That's right.
Like Psalm 23 says, he leads us to still waters. Yeah, there may be the shadow, the valley of like the darkness of death. There's going to be these moments, right? The roller coaster up and down.
Yeah.
But you are experiencing the still waters that he leads his sheep to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's an eternal aspect to it as well.
Even one of the nurses who came over, because they come in my room and the wall is here.
Yeah.
So they sit on the couch and they don't actually see the wall till they turn around. And then I have to say, I'm really not crazy.
Yeah, so they walk through this prayer sanctuary that you have.
But the one nurse, she couldn't put it in because they were talking about end of life and how do you see it looking and all the rest of it. And I said, I have no fear about that at all. And she knows I'm surrounded by people. She knows that because I need nothing from them other than medical care.
Yeah.
But she just looked at me and she goes, I don't understand what it is that you have about you. But it's the peace of God that she was seeing. But, and I said, it's God. I have a relationship with God.
Well, people said that a long time ago about you. Remember your one friend, I'm not going to say her name, but she thinks you got a spidey sense like Spider-Man.
Oh,
Yes, that's what
okay,
she
you're going
says.
to have to cut that.
No, we're keeping that in. I like it. The Holy Spirit gives us spidey senses.
She's got a spidey sense. That's what she says.
Yeah.
Jane, you got a spidey sense whenever she'd, figure something out.
Yeah.
What was about her. Anyway, I don't want to say too much about the other.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was something that kind of blew her away. She said, oh, you got a spidey sense.
Well, think about like the New Testament talks about like be ready in all seasons, out of season, in season, to share your faith, right? Always be ready. That's why it says to be sober-minded, right? Because you're going through something where you're literally having people come to your house for medical care. And you're like, I don't need anything from you except for medical care. That sounds crazy to someone that doesn't know the Lord.
Yeah.
But you're giving them an opportunity to see faith over fear.
Yeah.
And I believe for us as a church, not just Vitalpoint, the capital C global church, is in other areas of the world, it does a really good job of placing faith over fear. But in our Western world society that we live in, a lot of followers of Jesus, they tend to live in fear. And not like, yes, you can say, well, there's fear of the Lord. Absolutely. But we're tending to lean on the fear of the world and how it's big, bad, and ugly, and it's out to get us.
Yeah.
But like you've said, like we know the end story.
Yeah.
We know the beauty that we'll walk into.
Yeah.
So for me, being encouraged by you guys is reality is like your faith is being forged in the fire.
The other thing I would like to say is I know I have God's peace. Some days I feel it. Some days I don't. But I know it's there.
Wow.
So you can't go by feelings either, because the days I'm falling apart, I still know God's with me 100%. I don't feel him on those days. There's certain days when I actually can feel his presence. Most of them, I would say. I feel like I'm walking in a bubble, but I also know that when I don't feel it, it's still there.
Wow. That's a game changer thought.
Because the Bible says it's there. So,
Wow. How, because you're living this and you're experiencing the hand of God in your life through community, through God's word, how can the church support people like yourselves going through these things even better?
Honestly, I don't know. I don't
I
know.
don't think you could do any
No.
more than you've done. Like the food we got,
Yeah.
well, we got our freezers full, and then we got a friend.
I haven't
They
cooked a
have a
meal
freezer.
in 3 months.
Yeah, and they have a freezer that's they got because we had so much. It's an overflow.
And I
like it,
literally
you know.
can't stand to cook.
Yeah.
Like I can't stand for very long. I get really nauseous,
Yeah.
like maybe a minute. And so that for me has been a blessing because I need to keep weight on. So it would be easy to not bother with it. Matt's
Yeah.
obviously stepping up and it's barbecue season. But
Yeah,
Way to
do all the
There you go,
cooking.
buddy.
yeah, that's a change. Like I've always been the one who's done all the house stuff, and Matt's always done all the work stuff because the business has been full on, which has worked for us. But now he's emptying the dishwasher and doing all those things that I used to do, and he's doing it willingly, not
Sacrifice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Incredible. Let's end with this question. If this podcast could do one thing for someone, what's your prayer for it? I'd love to hear from both of you guys.
I would desire that they would want to seek out God because of either what they see in us or it's triggered something in them that there's more. Because I just can't imagine. Everybody goes through struggles, whether it's pancreatic cancer or divorce or all kinds of things, loss of a child. Like, I can't imagine doing that without God. And I just would desire that they would recognize their need for God.
Wow.
Yeah.
And his need for them
Yeah.
desires their
Oh, yeah.
relationship.
He's chasing them. Yeah.
Cool. How about you, Matt?
You know, they're pretty much the same thing. Eh? Like, what would you do without God? Eh?
Yeah.
You know, and people, if you know, there's always something coming around the bend, right? Like some sort of struggle, and you just lean on God, and you'll get through it somehow, one way or the other. You know,
And the best
You
way
know,
to
the-
do that is in community, in a church.
that's right. Yeah,
Because they've got your back and they can encourage you. Like I
Yeah.
know
Like
it's
we're-
always a journey that we're on, and
like we're really blessed where we are here
yeah.
with all the people. You know, that,
Incredible.
you know, there was people. Oh, the other day, somebody from another church that we knew from a long time ago. They come knocking on the door, and they had all this food, and
yeah,
we're thinking, wow, what are we going to do with that?
And
Maybe
another-
it was enough to 4 meals or something.
Yeah.
You know,
Incredible.
yeah.
yeah, and, you know, just out of the blue.
And then another church in our community asked if they could pray for us, and we went in there
Yep.
Come on.
and they prayed for us, which was really moving.
Yeah,
And people that have just come out of the woodwork saying,
yeah.
we're
all
praying
over.
for you. And it's like, wow, I haven't seen you in a long, long time. And they're just, God's waking me up in the night to pray for you. And it's just, it's overwhelming and so humbling.
Yeah.
Well, I think what you're experiencing right now is because you have been there for others time and time again. You've cared, you've loved, you've cooked, you've done all of these things, you've sacrificed. You're now experiencing the blessing of other people saying, these people have helped us and we need to sacrifice and help them as well. Even like you just said, even if it's just prayer.
Yeah.
My spiritual father says the cheapest but most powerful thing you
Yeah.
can do for anyone
Absolutely.
is
Yeah.
prayer. And Jane and Matt, I really am thankful that I get to call you friends. I've got to watch you guys grow in faith, lead people, and now in a time of pain and suffering, you still are able to say, "I have joy and I have peace." And I'm praying, and Hannah and my wife, we're praying for you guys to experience the total healing in Jesus' name.
Yeah.
That your body will be put back together, because I believe He's the great physician.
Yeah.
And the way He needs to heal you, He will heal you.
Yeah.
And for you, Matt, I'm just incredibly pleased to watch you walk alongside your wife, sacrifice doing the dishes every once in a while. Pretty big guy.
All the time.
All the time, right? And this is just amazing. So thank you for being here. Thank you for taking time out of a draining day that can be going on, right? You said before in the morning, like, I'm not feeling great, but I just still need to show up. And thank you for being here. And if you're watching, if you're listening, and this is connecting with you, I echo what Jane and Matt have said. Lean into God. Seek Him. He is our high tower. Like Jane has said a few times, Scripture says that We are covered by his wings, which means he protects us. He desires us to be close to him. And if you're needing prayer, if you're needing to have a conversation or reach out to a friend or even reach out to us as a church, because we believe that these stories like Jane and Matt and other ones that we will record are going to not just touch people's lives for a moment, but it actually gives you an opportunity to open the door to a relationship with Christ and have an eternal healing of salvation and be able to spend all of your days, all of your life in true color with Jesus as your Lord and Savior. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you for so much for watching this. This is the Vital Moments podcast, where real, true life stories come to life for so many people to watch, listen, reflect, and then ask, can this be true for me? With God the Father, Jesus the Son, and Holy Spirit as the comforter and guider of our lives. Thanks so much for being here.